Hello and Namaste, this is Danfe TV. Today's news highlights Nepal has been a fruits on the cliff for America. Recently, Kathmandu has become the first destination for the American officials. One after another, American officials are coming to Kathmandu. Less than a month after a delegation of US parliamentarians visited Nepal recently, US Undersecretary of State and Special Coordinator for Tibet Issues Ujra Jaya is visiting Nepal. Earlier, US Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asian Affairs Kelly Caterling's team returned from Nepal on 8th Baisakh. While in Nepal, the team also visited Lumbini. In addition, the team was interested in the issue of independent Tibet in Nepal. Probably it is the turn of US Secretary of State Antony Blinken to visit Nepal after Ujra's visit on 6th Gist. The US Embassy in Nepal is currently preparing for US Secretary of State Antony's visit to Nepal. In particular, the US military has arrived in Nepal to provide security during US Secretary of State Antony's visit to Nepal. US Secretary of State Antony will pay a visit to Nepal at the time given by them. According to the officials of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Nepal, US Secretary of State Antony will take flight to Nepal soon after the US Undersecretary of State and Special Coordinator for Tibet Issues Ujra's visit to Nepal. During his visit to Nepal, he will discuss the development of the Indo-Pacific region. While landing in Delhi for a visit to India in Shravan last year, US Secretary of State Antony congratulated the newly appointed Prime Minister of Nepal, Sarvado Deva. After leaving New York, Secretary of State Antony, who landed in India on 13th Shravan 2017, issued a statement from the US State Department claimed that India has been an important partner in the Indo-Pacific region. This statement said the United States supports India in becoming an important partner and a world power in its effort to make the Indo-Pacific region a region of peace, stability and prosperity. In other words, the United States is equally likely to interpret Nepal as a base area for the Indo-Pacific region. He had called Nepal's Prime Minister Deva during his visit to Delhi, ignoring the usually diplomatic practice of calling the Prime Minister of another country from other's country. His efforts show that India and Nepal share the same geography in the Indo-Pacific region. Interest in Indo-Pacific region. The US wants to define the Indo-Pacific region not only to Nepal but also to India in recent times. In other words, the US seems to be thinking of branding all kinds of American activities in the region under the Indo-Pacific label. Nepal's then Foreign Minister Pradeep Gewali had agreed to remain at the center of Indo-Pacific strategy. On 3rd Post 2075, the then Foreign Minister Gewali had a bilateral meeting with US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in Washington, D.C. During the meeting, the then Foreign Minister Gewali agreed to be a partner in the Indo-Pacific strategy, according to a statement issued by the US State Department. After that, the United States' interest began to grow towards Nepal. At the time, political parties were trying to keep saying they were more interested in MCC than growing American influence. The agreement reached during US Secretary of State Antony's visit to India also illustrates how growing American interest in the region is growing. During his visit to India, India agreed to increase military cooperation with the United States. The agreement reached between the two foreign ministers includes special agreements ranging from the exchange of military information to liaison officers, complex exercises such as Malabar and the secure communication agreements. The United States has opened the way for India to buy up to $20 billion worth of defense equipment from the United States by 2020. All attempts by the US to make India the commander of the Indo-Pacific region seem to have failed. India did not fulfill American interest in Russia-Ukraine war against American will. Despite its policy of neutral, India provided psychological support to Russia. During the war, when Western nations imposed economic sanctions on Russia, India increased its oil imports. India's assistance to Russia, which has been hampered by the US decision not to buy petroleum, was significant. On top of that, at a time when the West was deciding not to buy Russian goods, India had decided to buy large quantities of oil from Russia. India had decided to increase the volume of petroleum purchased from Russia, even in the face of payment problems due to international sanctions imposed on Russian banks. India's decision made it easier for Russia to manage the surplus petroleum stock that the United States did not take from Russia. On the other hand, Russia's dominance in Indian military equipment seems to be maintained. The United States has not been able to clarify its position on India because of the relationship between India and Russia, two Cold War partners. Therefore, US activism in Nepal seems to be increasing. Without a break in the winter relations with Russia, India is not in a position to clarify the Indo-Pacific strategy of the United States. That's why the US is trying to change the Indian eye that has been looking at Nepal. Their fought, which began 4 years ago, is now succeeding due to Prime Minister Sarvado Deva and his coalition. Relations between Nepal and India are not good after the blockade of 2072 BS. Even now, this relationship has been able to pick up speed like before. However, this government seems to be trying to improve relations with India as well. During his visit to India, Prime Minister Deva visited the Bharatiya Janata Party BJP headquarters, contrary to diplomatic dignity. On the day he landed in India on 18th Chaitra, he was the guest of BJP President JP Nadda and Foreign Affairs Chief Vijay Chauthaiwale. This is the first time that the incumbent Prime Minister of Nepal had visited the office of an Indian party during his visit to India. India wants Nepal to come under its old influence. Recent events show that Nepal has gradually slipping from the Indian influence and moved closer to the American. Therefore, the more ambiguity of India, the sooner Nepal will slip from the Indian influence. With this government in power, it has become clear that Nepal will be influenced by American. Therefore, the issue of remaining close to India, China, Russia, or the United States seem to be determine Nepal's relation in the days to come. It is understood that the Americans see Nepal as an alternative to India. In case India will be with Americans, American influence will not be directly felt in Nepal. In other words, the United States can continue the whole idea of resolving Nepal's interest through India. The blockade of 2072 BS has put a brake on his practice. In such a situation, Nepal can balance its relation with other countries by keeping India trust. King Mahendra's formula seems to be a guide for political parties in such a situation. If India dilemma continues, US influence in Nepal is likely to increase. In particular, the reason for increasing American influence in Nepal is to show India that we have started using Nepal as your alternative. The US wants to send a message to India that Nepal is your alternative for us. For this reason, the activities of Americans in Nepal have increased. On the other hand, the United States seem to be trying to unify even scattered long-running issues in Nepal. The issue of independent Tibetans is a top priority. The fact that India has restricted the activities of the Dalai Lama to Dharamsala is also the reason why their interest rises on Nepal. However, it is not easy for the United States to take up such activities in Nepal. This issue also needs to be addressed for India. Nepal or a fruit grows on a stick. There is a proverb in Nepal, a fruit grows on a stick. It is a common practice to use this proverb to give an example of an issue that cannot be used when it is needed but cannot be given up as well. At present, Nepal's neighbors seem to be in the same situation. In other words, Nepal has reached a stage where it cannot be abandoned and useless like the kupindo that grows on the stick. India has been hit the hardest. China is now slowly appearing in place of India. The government of Nepal is currently interested in how to repatriate the Chinese from the Chinese investment project in Nepal. The latest example of this is Buri Gandaki. The Oli government has decided to hand over the Buri Gandaki hydropower project to the Chinese company Gezhua, but the Dewa-led government planned to make it themselves. Even though China was interested in this issue, the Nepal government did not care about Chinese interest. Earlier, the decision was taken by the Council of Ministers on the recommendation of Water Resources Minister Pampa Bhusal, a confidant of CPN-MC Chairman Pushpakamal Dahal. When Dahal was Prime Minister, the project was given to a Chinese company without competition. The then Dewa-led elected government reversed the decision. Later, Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli again decided to hand over the responsibility of construction of the project to a Chinese company. At present, American assistance in Nepal seems to be increasing one after another. As a result, the general public's attitude towards American is becoming more and more positive. The United States has been increasing its assistance to Nepal one after the other to reduce the negative feelings that have developed against the general public, especially during the time to pass the MCC. Visas and opportunities have been made easier for Nepalese going to the US and Europe. The United States Agency for International Development (USAID) has agreed to provide grant assistance of Rs 79.71 billion to Nepal. At the signing ceremony, Ms. Sapida Kevan said USAID Nepal Mission Director asserted that the assistance agreement outlines a broad development area of cooperation and collaboration between the United States and Nepal. The outline of broad development area of cooperation has not been made public in Nepal. However, the concept of the Indo-Pacific strategy is an outline of the broad development area of cooperation that the United States is proposing. In other words, Nepal has endorsed the concept put forward by the United States in a roundabout way after this agreement. The agreement was signed during a program organized at the Ministry of Finance on 22nd Baisakh 2079 BS. On behalf of Nepal, the agreement was signed by Iswari Prasad Aryal, Joint Secretary and Head of International Economic Cooperation Coordination Division, IECCD, Ministry of Finance, and Sapida, Director, USAID. The reason for the recent increase in US interest in Nepal is the use of Nepal's land as an alternative to India rather than Nepal. Earlier, even during the Khampa rebellion, the US had used Nepali land with ease. The revolt, which was carried out on Nepali soil with American weapons against China, failed due to seeing through the eyes of the United States. After the US withdrew, the Nepal army easily suppressed the Khampa insurgency. Therefore, the situation in Nepal is no different not only for China and India, but also for the United States. Indian Prime Minister visit to Lumbini. At the invitation of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is coming to Lumbini to participate in a special program to be organized on the occasion of the 2566th Buddha Jayanti on 2nd Jan. The Indian Prime Minister of External Affairs has not yet commented on the visit. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is scheduled to arrive in Lumbini via Kushinagar in Uttar Pradesh on 2nd of Jan. In Lumbini, Prime Minister Sherbahadur Deuba and Indian Prime Minister Modi will jointly address the special event. Ministers and high-ranking officials of the Government of Nepal will also participate in the program. Construction of 4 helipads is undergoing for the landing of the Indian delegation, including Modi. About 50 workers have been employed in the construction of the helipad. The Indian government is planning to build a Buddhist Bihar in Lumbini. Prime Minister Deuba and Indian Prime Minister Modi are scheduled to lay the foundation stone of Bihar. India plans to build Bihar within 3 to 4 years at a cost of about 1 billion Indian rupees. It is said that the Ministry of Culture and Tourism of India will construct the Bihar. Lumbini Buddhist University is preparing to honor Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi with an honorary doctorate on the occasion of his visit to Lumbini. Lumbini Buddhist University is about to be honored with a doctorate. The Executive Council of the university has already decided to give an honorary doctorate to Modi. A certificate has also been prepared to confer an honorary doctorate to the Indian Prime Minister. Discussions are underway between the Government of Nepal and the Government of India on the issue of appointing a chairman from India at Lumbini Buddhist University. Discussions are underway at the diplomatic level on the issue of appointing the chairman of Lumbini Buddhist University, with the financial support of the Government of India. However, no decision has been taken yet. Modi will spend an hour and a half in worship at the Mayadevi temple. The Indian Prime Minister will light candle at the Asoka pillar and rest on a bodhi tree south of the Puskarani pond. Prime Minister Deuba and Modi will also hold brief talks in Lumbini. Kathmandu is not in the schedule of Modi's visit. Modi's one-day visit, which is set to take place on the occasion of Buddha Jayanti, is being formalized, officials said. With this, we are at the end of the report. If you are liking our content, then don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our channel. Thank you.